Hi, I'm Emma from Tracklution. In this video, I will tell you what is the difference between client-side and server-side tracking. And most importantly, what is the real business impact of server-side tracking. Let's begin with the problem, which is data loss in digital advertising. In today's world, most advertisers are flying blind because a large portion of conversion data never reaches the ad platforms. Client-side tracking relies entirely on the browser, and with iOS restrictions, cookie changes, ad blockers, VPNs, and so on, it is common to lose 30 to 70% of all data that should be available for tracking. And it is only getting worse. At the same time, digital ads rely on algorithms getting accurate data to perform better. And this is where most advertisers get it wrong. Losing data is not just about missing numbers in reports or dashboards. Accurate conversion data is the fuel for ad algorithms. When the data is incomplete, the algorithms learn poorly, and that leads directly into less efficient algorithms and you paying more for your advertising. Now I will explain to you the two concepts of client-side tracking and server-side tracking. You're probably familiar with client-side tracking. It is very easy to implement, but unfortunately, it is nowadays pretty ineffective. It works so that people click on your ads, they end up on your website, where the conversion data is saved in the browser in a cookie. This is then delivered to the ad platforms. Pretty simple. The issue here is that the cookies live on the browser, and these third-party cookies are increasingly more being blocked. This is due to ad blockers, changes in cookies, VPNs, and connection issues. Also, if your conversions happened outside the browser, you are not able to track these with a client-side tracking. Then server-side tracking. This is usually quite difficult to implement, and it may require a tech development project. But it is very effective. In practice, server-side tracking means that instead of storing the data in the client-side cookie, you will store it in your own server. You will no longer be restricted like the third-party cookies are with ad blockers, cookie deprecation, iOS changes, and so on. The data that you are collecting from your website can also be enriched inside the server. So, for example, if you have conversions happening outside of your website, you are also able to bring those to the server and enrich the conversion data or even use offline conversions for ad optimization. You will also have full visibility over the data that you are tracking. The data transmission happens with conversion APIs securely to the third-party ad platforms. As I mentioned before, this process can be usually quite hard to implement and also maintain, but we at Tracklution handle this whole process with a plug-and-play principle. So basically, you don't need a developer. I will explain this process with two examples. One from B2B, so lead gen, and one from B2C industry, so basically an e-commerce store. First, the B2B case. The case example is that you want to track the full funnel and optimize your advertising with real conversion, even though you are working in the B2B industry where purchases rarely happen on the website. The process is this. People click on your ads and end up on your website. On the website, they click around and finally do a lead form submission. In this case, you are still doing client-side tracking, and you are sending the lead form submission to the ad platforms, and you use that conversion event for your optimization. Issue here is that you are probably losing quite many of these lead form submissions because you're doing it with third-party client-side tags. In this scenario, ad optimization happens with incomplete data and low-quality events. With this, I mean that you may have 100 leads, but out of these 100 leads, only 5 buy. Why wouldn't you then optimize your advertising to these 5 people who actually buy instead of the 100 people who send a lead form? Then, how you can solve this issue with server-side tracking? You don't need to edit the process that you have. So people still click on your ads, end up on your website where they submit a lead form. After that, your sales guys are contacting these people, sending them offers, they are viewing the offers, and finally they buy. At this stage, your sales guy is marking the deal won in your CRM. Now when you're using server-side tracking, you can bring all of this data to your server. This means that you are capturing all stages of your sales funnel. Now that you're doing this server-side, you are resistant to ad blockers and you can utilize first-party data. And most importantly, you are able to bring offline data from your CRM to your server. With Tracklution, we are able to match the initial ad click, lead form submission, and all of these stages to the last conversion that is brought from your CRM as an offline data to your Tracklution server. Then you send this data to your ad platforms, so now you're able to send the actual conversion, which is purchase instead of lead form submission. And with this approach, your ad optimization happens with high quality events and complete data. Now on to the second case example from B2C industry. In this scenario, you want to track every purchase and optimize with profit data. The current process is this with client-side tracking, that people click on your ads and end up on your website. Already, this conversion tracking is being restricted due to broken sessions, ad blockers, cookie deprecation, and VPNs. So finally, when the purchase happens, you are sending incomplete data to your ad platforms and the algorithms are confused. You would also like to do profit bidding, so optimizing your ads with your profit instead of revenue. The idea is of course nice, that you would just add your profit margins to your website's data layer and then send them to the ad platforms with the third-party tags. Unfortunately, this is not recommended, as anybody with just even a little bit of technical knowledge can look into your website's data layer and find your profit margins. So clearly you don't want to do this. Then the solution with server-side tracking to this situation. The process is still the same. People go to your website by clicking your ads, they click around, and then they make a purchase. Now you bring this data to your Tracklution server, which is resistant to ad blockers and is using first-party cookies. Then you also bring the offline data, so your profit data from your backend system to your Tracklution server, and we are able to match the profit margins to the actual purchases that happen. Now the data is moving from your backend system directly to your Tracklution server, and this means that the data is moving securely without ever being on the website. As a last step, you send this data with the conversion APIs to your ad platforms, which are now able to optimize your ads with 100% accurate data, and also you're able to do profit bidding. Now that we understand the terms and the process, let's go through how you can build competitive advantage with server-side tracking. Here at the tip of the iceberg, we have the part that everybody else is doing. So, using browser-side pixels to send conversion data to their ad platforms. As we already know, this data is usually quite bad. Then, we have what you could be doing, providing better data than your competitors to the ad platforms. So, you have server-side tracking and conversion APIs in use. This enables you to use first-party data, have full transparency over the data that you are collecting. This means that you have better compliance than your competitors. This also affects your website performance because you no longer have all sorts of different third-party pixels on your website. Also, you are able to safeguard any sensitive data as you have full visibility of what is coming in before it is actually sent out to the ad platforms. Then you can also teach the algorithms. So you can send, for example, e-commerce data. You can send your profit margins, information about new or returning customers, and also any other conversion rules. So you are basically teaching the algorithms to work for you. The possibilities here are endless. So, in conclusion, training ad algorithms with good quality data is crucial. To prove this, Tracklution users see on average 34% more conversions, resulting in 18% reduction in customer acquisition cost. And that is what brings the real business value of server-side tracking. Those who seize the opportunity gain better data and get more out of their ad budgets. If you now understand that server-side tracking is important and it can really benefit businesses, but you're still unsure if it will affect you, I will explain how you can know if you have tracking issues. the first thing that might pop on your mind is that I suspect that something is off, but I'm not quite sure what. To understand if you have issues in tracking, go to your reports. Do you see mismatches in your reports? So for example, when you're comparing your back-end sales data to what you see in your ad platforms, and then you compare that also to what you see in your analytics. For example, your back-end sales data might show you that you have 100 purchases from last week. You go to the ad platforms, and each one of these say that you got 110 purchases last week thanks to our ads. Then you go to your analytics platform, and there you can see that you only had 80 purchases last week. So there is a big mismatch between these different reports. That is one sign that is telling that you have issues with your current tracking. Other common signals that imply that you have issues with your tracking are increasing customer acquisition costs, difficulties in scaling your ad campaigns, or your ads getting stuck in the learning phase. And in many cases, the issue isn't the strategy or the creatives, it is actually the missing data. Now, if you check some of those boxes and you think you have an issue with your tracking, but you're not quite sure how to get started with server-side tracking, don't worry. We at Tracklution made it very simple for you. The installation process of server-side tracking and conversion APIs takes approximately 30 minutes. You need no technical knowledge and you can get started for free. Go to tracklution.com, create an account and start your free trial. Thank you for watching and happy tracking!